A small but incredibly fast, unwanted guest is about to swing past Earth at the speed of light. Yeah, this is the tiniest black hole in the universe, but despite its small size, could it still rip our planet apart? In this video, we're sending black holes through Earth, from the tiniest black hole just 2 centimeters, 3/4 inch in diameter, to the most massive, stupendously large black hole. For you on Earth, things are about to get bad. Okay, black holes come in all sizes. Most of them are called stellar mass black holes because, while they're born when a massive star, at least 8 times heavier than our sun, collapses and becomes a tiny but very dense black hole. This is Gaia BH1, and it's the closest black hole to us, just 1,560 light years away. This black hole is almost 10 times as massive as our sun, but it's small. Its event horizon is only 59 kilometers wide, that's 37 miles. And we'll send it our way in a minute, but for now, let's talk about black holes that nobody has ever observed before. Yeah, some black holes are incredibly tiny, but to see those, we'd have to go back to the very first moments after the Big Bang, when our universe exploded from a singularity 13.8 billion years ago. This is a time when tiny black holes popped up before any galaxies or planets even had time to form. The scientists call these primordial black holes. We've never observed them to confirm their existence, either because these black holes are too tiny for us to detect, or because most of them have evaporated by now. But we theorize that these tiny, dense pockets of gravity existed a long, long time ago. What's interesting about these primordial black holes is that they could be as tiny as 1 femtometer in size, but even then, they'd weigh as much as a mountain. Now for our story, we'll start with a black hole a bit larger, with the exact same mass as Earth. Of course, Earth didn't exist at the same time as one of these black holes might have, but we here at What If, well, we like to imagine hypothetical scenarios, as you may have noticed. And in this hypothetical, a black hole just as massive as Earth is about to hit us. Only, you wouldn't see it coming because it would be tiny. So we'll make it larger for the sake of visuals, but in reality, a black hole of this mass would have an event horizon of just under 2 centimeters wide, smaller than a coin, but with the gravity of our entire planet. It would fly by Earth like a bullet, and it would only take 0.04 seconds to do so. Depending on how close to Earth it passed, this tiny visitor could cause devastating effects. With this much gravity, it would pull on different parts of the Earth with different strengths. The side of the Earth facing it would be stretched more strongly than the far side. These tidal forces would put a lot of strain on Earth's crust. Even if it didn't go through Earth, but just near it, this tiny black hole could set off tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanoes all over the planet. And worse than that, this black hole would yank Earth out of its usual orbit. Yeah, our planet could go on a wild ride a little closer to the sun. And if it did, Earth would face extreme climate change and fast. Or we could go the other way and move closer to Mars. If Earth left the habitable zone of our sun, things down here would get very cold very fast. But what if this black hole didn't just pass by Earth, but passed through it? Well, it would be like piercing our planet with an extremely fast and massive needle. The black hole would create a narrow tunnel that would go all the way through our planet. Anything in its vicinity would be stretched and torn by tidal forces, or spaghettified. Massive earthquakes would ripple through the entire planet in seconds. Fault lines on the other side of the world would slip. Entire tectonic plates could shift. This wouldn't be a local earthquake, it would be the crust cracking everywhere at once. Being on Earth for this would be horrifying, and you wouldn't even know why things were going south. Because if you remember, you wouldn't see this black hole coming. While the planet's crust is tearing itself apart, when it comes to black holes, size doesn't always matter. It's their mass. So let's move on to a more crushing black hole. A stellar mass black hole, as massive as 10 suns. Okay, despite weighing 10 times more than our sun, it would only be about 59 kilometers wide. That's 37 miles. It's less than the distance you drive in under an hour on the highway. But that tiny shadow packs gravity strong enough to shred planets. From the moment this black hole entered the outer region of our solar system, the Kuiper Belt, you'd only have about 5.5 hours until total chaos. In 4 hours and 50 minutes, astronomers would see its effects on Jupiter. Now, while the black hole wouldn't strip gas from the giant planet unless it passed extremely close, well, we might detect unusual gravitational anomalies around it. Jupiter would likely experience tidal disruption if the black hole came close, but luckily for this gas giant, no gas would spiral into its accretion disk. That's because the black hole would be moving too fast for that. Another 30 minutes later, Mars would be dangerously close to the black hole's gravitational grip. Now, Mars wouldn't disappear into the black hole unless it was directly in its path. More likely, it would be torn apart by tidal forces or flung out of its orbit. Suddenly, things would start to feel off. Even without light, the black hole's presence would distort the night sky. Stars might appear to swirl around it. This effect is called gravitational lensing. But you'd need a powerful telescope to see it because this black hole is still pretty small in size. At this point, you'd feel like the ground was shifting underneath you. That's not your imagination. It's Earth slightly stretching toward the black hole as its gravity pulls on one side harder than the other. Seconds later, things would get violent. The planet would crack across continents. Tides would surge violently, not from the wind or the moon's pull, but from pure gravity. Earthquakes would erupt everywhere at once. Everything would be shaking, cracking, and ripping apart. During this violent event, Earth might lose the moon if its orbit became too unstable, but our planet would survive. It would be stretched and damaged, and it would take a long time to recover, but still, it wouldn't become one with the black hole. Not yet. But it could get worse. If this light-speed traveling thing wasn't just a flyby, but actually on a collision course with our planet, you wouldn't stand a chance of surviving. In an instant, the black hole would rip through our planet like a bullet, only this is a bullet that weighs as much as 10 suns, and it would be moving at 300,000 kilometers per second, 186,000 miles per second. The moment it hit us, the crust, the mantle, the core, everything would be pulled inward. The black hole would shred Earth with tidal forces stronger than anything you've ever experienced. And then, just 0.04 seconds later, it would tear out the other side, leaving behind a tunnel of superheated, collapsing matter. Shock waves would ripple around the globe, and oceans would boil and the atmosphere would ignite. Entire continents would crack and collapse. Earth wouldn't be swallowed whole, it would be ruptured, deformed, and left bleeding debris out into space. And the black hole? It wouldn't even slow down. Okay, now how about another type of black hole, an intermediate mass one? These monstrosities are far more rare, or at least harder to detect. We found hundreds of stellar black holes, but only a few solid candidates for intermediate mass black holes. These aren't as small as stellar mass black holes formed from dying stars, and not as enormous as the supermassive giants in the centers of galaxies. These types of black holes weigh between a few hundred and a few 100,000 times the mass of our sun. And scientists think they form when stellar mass black holes collide and merge into a more massive black hole. Now, a black hole 1,000 times more massive than our sun would be catastrophic, like any other black hole in this scenario really. Black holes are bad for you if they come too close, and this one would be devastating. Imagine a black hole 1,000 times more massive than our sun rampaging through the solar system. This monstrosity would have a more substantial size too, packing all its mass into a beast about half the size of Earth. As it came close to Earth, like all the other black holes on our list, it would start tearing the Earth apart with its enormous gravity. On top of the regular mix of volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis, this monstrosity would tug Earth closer, swallowing chunks of it as it passed by. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it would pass, leaving Earth with a tilted axis, an unstable orbit, and a civilization collapsing in slow motion. And as always, things would get worse if this intermediate mass black hole were on a direct course through our planet. It wouldn't collide with Earth like a rock, it would just replace the space where Earth used to be, all within a fraction of a second. Earth would start to collapse inward before the black hole even touched our surface. Rocks would lift and the ground would curve. Time itself starts to come to a standstill near the event horizon. And then comes the breach. The black hole would swallow the planet. Earth would be gone in an instant. Cities wouldn't even have time to burn. They would just stretch and vanish. The black hole would leave a collapsing molten tunnel through Earth. With the planet's core completely gone, Earth would keep collapsing in on itself, but so fast that you wouldn't even have time to blink. Scary, but that wasn't even the worst of the black holes. Meet Phoenix A star, the baddest, most massive black hole we've ever laid eyes on. This stupendously large black hole has a mass of 100 billion suns. Its event horizon stretches 590 billion kilometers, 370 billion miles. Just so you can picture the sheer size of this gigantic cosmic death trap, it's 100 times wider than the distance from Pluto to the Sun. Yeah, and it would swallow all planets in our solar system like they were nothing. At first, without warning, strange distortions would appear in the sky. Well, that's gravitational lensing from the most massive black hole in the observable universe. Phoenix A star's titanic gravity would be warping the fabric of space around it. Even before this monstrosity passed through the Kuiper Belt and the outer regions of our solar system, every planet in the neighborhood would feel its galactic presence. Neptune and Uranus would start to drift off their orbits, and a few hours later, the inner planets would get massively disturbed too. Earth's path around the sun would begin to deform under the overwhelming tug of Phoenix A star. By the time you understood what was happening, the flyby would become imminent. Phoenix A star would be approaching Earth at the speed of light. The oceans facing the black hole bulge upward, drawn by its monstrous gravity. Even though the beast would still be unbelievably far out, our tides would grow beyond anything in recorded history. They would flood everything. As Phoenix A star pulled on our planet, the atmosphere wouldn't be able to hold on. Supersonic winds would tear across every continent, and above you, satellites and debris would light up the sky, dragged from orbit like falling stars. Even the International Space Station would plunge into a death spiral it was never built to survive. At its closest pass, Phoenix A star would tear past Earth at the speed of light. For a few seconds, its gravity would overpower the sun's. Earth's orbit would shatter, and our planet would be flung out into space. Here on Earth, it would feel as if gravity disappeared for a moment. Everything would lift, people, cars, buildings, and then, when it was gone, everything would be caught in a sudden free fall. Now the Earth's crust couldn't handle such an intense gravitational pull. The planet would erupt in earthquakes and volcanoes, rupturing everywhere. And then, after just 0.04 seconds, just as quickly as it came, Phoenix A star would race onward. In a flash, this immense black disk would start disappearing from view, leaving a distorted star field to gradually return to normal. But the havoc would remain. In its blistering flyby, Phoenix A star would permanently alter the solar system, even our sun. Every piece of rock would be launched out of orbit, ejected on the path to interstellar space. Whatever remained of Earth would become a rogue planet, drifting through space, not bound to any star. In this brief, catastrophic encounter, the human toll would be incalculable. Our entire civilization would be left to die. Most coastal cities would become underwater ruins. Inland areas would deal with earthquakes, fires, and storms. It would be the end of the world for you. Even if by some miracle pockets of humanity survived the 40 milliseconds of chaos, they'd faced an existential challenge adapting to a planet that's drifting toward deep freeze in outer space. So yeah, black holes suck. They destroy everything they touch, and falling into a black hole, even for a nanosecond, would be lethal for you.